everybody. Welcome to the Hallmarksthespot. Merry Christmas. And today we are talking about two of the week 8 movies. Can you believe that we're on week 8 of Hallmark Christmas season? We're talking about Rescuing Christmas and To All a Good Night. And then we will have actually 3 episodes covering this weekend's movies, because we have the episode covering Magic and Mistletoe and Christmas on Cherry Lane. And then we also have an episode with Stacey Agner coming Round and Round. So it's a busy time to be a Hallmarkies podcast listener and host. That's right now, but very fun. And today I'm really excited to talk about Rescuing Christmas and To All a Good Night. We have one of our friends on Instagram we've gotten to know this season, Callie Younger. She has the Hallmarksthespot account. And Callie, thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Yeah, happy to be here. I love your guys' podcasts, and I've gotten to know a few of you guys, hosts throughout the years doing Hallmark movies. So very excited to be here.
Yeah, it's really fun. So what inspired you to create the Instagram account? And how long have you been, have you always been a Hallmark fan?
Yeah. So, yes, I've been a Hallmark fan for as long as I can remember. My mom and cousins and sister, and we used to all get together at Christmas time, and we would be in hotel rooms, and that was what was on. So that was like part of our tradition, was watching these movies. And then a few years ago, I started doing just recap blogs or reviews, and that with 40 movies has been very time consuming.
Yeah. I hear you.
Dialed back. And honestly, it was, you really have to pay attention when you're writing about every single thing that happens. So I dialed back and now just kind of do the Instagram account. But it's such a fun community to be a part of, that I've just really enjoyed just, being on Instagram and just getting to know people and commenting and, talking about, because so many people in my real life couldn't care less. So it's fun to have a place to go to talk about movies.
Yeah, no, I feel that. I mean, nobody in my family could care about not even just most of my family's just not movie people.
Oh, really?
Especially my parents. Yeah, they're not at all. And so it's like this mysterious, like Rachel's really into that, that stuff over there, kind of a thing. They look at it a little askew, but they're just happy that I'm happy, so that works. But
exactly.
It's so nice to find your hive.
Totally. Yes.
You could talk to about it. But what is it what do you love about Hallmark movies? Why do you enjoy them?
They are just so much a part of the Christmas season to me, honestly. I love just, I don't know, seeing the decorations. I mean, they're doing the things that I want to be doing during the season, but I have my real life to do, work and family and all that stuff. And so I love seeing them doing Christmas things. My mom and my sister always talk about, like, oh, I wish that we knew someone who had a fancy Christmas Eve party, or the town Christmas tree lighting. I grew up in a small town, but this, the small town vibes of so many of these movies are just, things that you want to be a part of, so that's what I love. And then the sweaters, the jackets, all of that. I love that too.
It's really escapist. It's very,
totally.
It's relaxing. Sometimes you want to be surprised, and other times you want to know exactly what you're sitting down to, and you
yes.
get it. Yeah.
It's like why we watch the other, Christmas movies over and over again. It's just, we know what's going to happen. We know that they're going to get together against all odds sometimes.
Well, the other thing too, I just think about rom-coms in general, is that they're hopeful. They're inherently hopeful. And sometimes we need a little hope.
I agree. Yes.
Yeah. Very, very true. Well, how do you feel Hallmark's done this season? What do you think?
I was really nervous at first. I feel like there was a couple rough ones out of the gate, but I have really enjoyed most of the movies I watched, honestly. I thought that they've done some fun things, like had actual comedies, had some different takes on the kind of traditional story. I feel like several of them have not followed that typical like plot line, of
Hmm.
going back to the small town or whatever it was. And
Yeah.
so there's been a lot that have been really fun.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I don't know if I'm getting soft or if it's been fun to watch this year.
For me, I think that it's been a solid season. There hasn't been hardly anything that I've like disliked.
Hmm.
There's been a couple I didn't like. The Never Been Christ and
Yes.
Navigating Christmas was not for me. But
Yeah.
for the most part, almost every single one has been like that was cute, it was
Yes.
watchable.
That's
Uh,
yeah.
yeah, and there haven't been like that many high highs. But I have
Hmm.
to say, one of the ones we're talking about today immediately
Yeah.
went right to the top of the
Yeah.
list,
I know.
to
After
the
I watched,
ranking.
yes, I was gonna say after the ones I watched, I was like, okay, I'm really excited about these
Yeah.
because I wasn't sure at the beginning of the first, I don't know what order we'll
Yeah.
do, but yeah.
Ho, ho, ho. We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's the Hallmarkies Patreon.
Do you love Hallmarkies podcast, especially at Christmas?
Do you enjoy the holiday previews, recaps, interviews, and bonus episodes?
If the answer is yes, please consider supporting the Hallmarkies Patreon. We need your help to do what we do both during the Christmas season and all year round.
But not only do you help a podcast led by strong, independent women by becoming a Patreon, you get to become a part of the Hallmarkies family.
Starting at only $2 a month as a patron, you will have access to our Facebook Patreon group where we talk about the movies, shows, and more all year.
We also have many monthly patron watch-alongs with guests like Lacey Chabert, Natalie Hall, Paul Campbell, Mary Lou Henner, and more, giving their behind-the-scenes details of their films.
As a patron, you also have the chance to provide input into the podcast and even join us at different tiers.
So this Christmas season, spread some cheer to the Hallmarkies Patreon and become a member today. You won't regret it.
Go to patreon.com/hallmarkies to learn more.
That's patreon.com/Hallmarkies. Well, let's dive in. Let's talk about it. So
Okay.
Rescuing Christmas, this was on Hallmark Movies Now, which was very strange that they did that. But anyway, it is. And it's director Emily Moss Wilson, who has a great track record, particularly a lot of Lifetime movies. Yeah, a lot of really good Lifetime movies. Writer Jim Head and Sarah Montana. And Sarah Montana has also a pretty great track record for Love to the Rescue, which I absolutely love that movie. And then Two Turtle Doves, which is one of the best ever Hallmark Christmas movies. And she had a bit of a bump in her Hallmark movie with Candace Cameron Bure, the If I Only Had Christmas. That was a bit of a
Is that
bump.
the one where she goes back in time?
No.
Or she goes ahead in time? Or
no, it's the one where it was just like a bunch of business meetings. It was so boring. But it had like all these weird homages to Wizard of Oz.
Yes. Oh my gosh, I hated that one. Yes, it was supposed to be the Wizard
It
of
was just
Oz.
like it was business meeting, the movie. Yeah.
Yeah.
But everybody has a bump. It's fine.
Yeah.
And so then we have this. And it stars Rachel Lee Cook and Sam Page and Bailey Stender. It follows an anti-Christmas photographer as she wishes Christmas would disappear. And that is such a lame description, but nevertheless, that's the description. And both of these movies were about photographers.
Yeah, that's it.
Which
that's
is really funny.
That's funny. That's really funny.
Hallmark loves a photographer.
Oh my gosh, yes, they do.
Yeah. There's no other creative profession.
I know.
And they're never like wedding photographers or like photographers at schools. No, they're always like editorial photographers.
Yeah,
and
like from magazine or artistic.
Yeah. Here she's still got a dark room. I don't know anybody who takes who's a photographer these days who still has a dark room. I mean, it's
so
like
funny you say
of.
that. Yeah, I was like, wait, do people still develop their photos? Like that was one of my questions. I was like,
nobody has film, first of all,
right.
And then second of all, that
you would just do a Photoshop or whatever. You have software.
Nobody does that anymore.
Yeah.
So it's just really funny. But overall, what did you think about this movie?
I really liked it. I was a little bit nervous at first when they opened up on the Santa's village, and I was like,
Uh-huh.
oh no, how are they going to play this? But yeah, I think it's going to be one of my favorites.
Yeah. It was so good. I absolutely loved this movie. Not only was it just absolutely hilarious, but I
Hmm.
thought it was so creative and
Hmm.
clever with how they managed to create Christmas without Christmas.
Yes.
That was not an easy thing because she wishes that Christmas would go away and it goes away.
Yeah.
And so the only way she can get it back is by teaching basically everybody about Christmas.
Hmm.
And so she has to create all this Christmas stuff out of ordinary stuff. So instead of ornaments, you have tennis balls, you have
Yep.
all of that. And I just thought that was so creative and fresh and exciting. And like, it was so fun to have, instead of your normal Christmas songs, to have celebration,
Yeah.
playing, and like, that's what you would do if you didn't have anything Christmas. That's probably the best
Yeah.
that you could do.
Right. And we have a movie earlier this season that's a similar idea. So
Mm-hmm.
but this was completely different. And I love that she's like trying to describe what kind of materials people need, and
Yeah.
they come back with, well, you said colorful balls, so I've got
Yeah.
tennis
So
balls.
tennis balls. It's
And
so
I was
smart.
like, I mean, honestly, when they got to like the big, decorating the big thing, she calls it a maple at the end, the mayor,
Uh-huh.
I was like tearing up because I was like, look at this town celebrating this
Yeah.
idea. They don't know, and they're doing the best they can. They're using pool noodles, they're using, and it's
Yeah.
all these bright colors. And I'm like, this is just so lovely that everyone was so, you know, desperate for this idea or this hope that they're just, let's decorate with what we have. Like
Yeah.
I loved it.
Yeah. Well, and the big difference between this and Where Are You Christmas is that Where Are You Christmas, I did not feel like anything that she had done was worthy of getting cursed, basically.
Yes.
Because
Right.
I
Yeah.
mean, she'd made like the wish, but she had like literally without a moment's notice, she gave up her trip to Bali or wherever
Hmm.
because her brother asked her to come home
Right.
and be there for Christmas without even a question.
Yeah.
Right. And
Yeah.
she was invested, and she did say, oh, I'm kind of bummed out about Christmas, but she was like cognizant of it and she was
Hmm.
concerned about it. And it wasn't like, so there was nothing that she did that I felt like was worthy of her getting this
Yes.
curse. And then
That's
I
such a good point.
also thought that the father was just
He was so
unhinged.
mean.
He
Yeah,
was
he
like,
was.
I mean, I've lived for most of my adult life, I lived far away from my parents, and it's not like it wasn't a personal attack. It was just where I lived. I just happened
Right.
to live somewhere different, and he was like,
So,
"You don't even
yeah,
love me."
I know. And I love him on 30 Rock, or not 30 Rock, on Parks and Rec. And so I was
Uh-huh.
like, Jerry,
Oh,
what are you doing? You're supposed to be this nice dad. Like,
yeah.
so he was mean. He was really mean. I
It's
was like, he
really.
should, yeah.
I was just like, man, guy, you're.
Hmm.
So it just both of those things just made it less fun for me. It wasn't like a
Yes.
terrible movie, but it was less fun than I wanted it to be. And then I think this took that basic premise of her wishing,
Yes.
because she really did kind of earn it. She was a grump.
Yes.
She
Yep.
was like she was for a Hallmark movie, she was Scrooge. She was a
Yes.
Scrooge,
And
and
yeah.
so they earned it more. And then everything about it was just so funny that
Yes, it was a much sillier, like, to even though there was some heavy moments, like it
yeah.
was very silly, which is, I think, of a thing that is new for Hallmark, and I really love, I,
Yeah.
I heard in an interview years ago that the first thing to go used to be the jokes, and I'm so glad that that seems to be changing,
Yeah, me
because
too.
I just love the
Yeah.
silliness. I think that that just makes it. It seemed like it was sort of leaning into, this genre a little bit, which
Yeah.
I just think it makes it more fun to watch across the
Hmm.
board. So
And Debbie, I loved so much. I was dying laughing.
Yeah,
Any scene that she was in, I immediately messaged our PR contact and stuff and was like, can we talk to
we
her?
need to get her.
She's so
Yes,
funny.
she was
Bailey
amazing.
Stender.
Oh, okay. I was like, I
Yeah.
don't think I've seen her in anything, but the two elves, and I don't know if you recognized her partner, but he was um a teacher on Saved by the Bell. I was like, why does he look so familiar?
Oh,
But he was,
really?
yeah,
Yeah.
looked a lot younger in Saved by the Bell.
Yeah, I've never
Um,
seen uh Bailey before. I guess she was on this new reboot of iCarly um
oh,
on her IMDb, and has a few other little things, but I hadn't seen her, and but
she
I
was
just she was so funny.
She was, yes. I was, like I said, I was kind of nervous when I saw them at first. I was like, oh man, we're gonna have elves.
Yeah.
Like this might be tough to pull off. But it was those two together were hilarious. She was great on her own, her trying to kind of make everything prettier and just she was so funny.
Yeah. So basically the Christmas magic is plummeting. Terrible.
Hmm.
And being a human has never been harder. Superstorm, social media, mac and cheese ice cream.
Yeah. I was like, what is that? Yeah.
I've actually had the mac and cheese ice cream. It was,
Really?
yes, it's
Oh, God.
it's this company called Van Leuven that they have a bunch of locations in New York City, and they have all the most of the time those like the salt and straw and like the
Oh yeah.
fancy creative ice cream
Mhm.
usually are gross.
Yeah.
And but the thing with the mac and cheese ice cream is that it's really just the packet. It's not the like there's no macaroni really in it.
Oh, it's just
And
the cheese.
yeah,
Yeah.
and so it was just kind of like maybe a little sweet salty, but it wasn't that exciting.
You know, I was gonna
Like,
say I really like I think it's called like Chicago mixed popcorn and it's like cheese and caramel,
yes.
but I feel like my brain would be like, this is cold, it's supposed to be warm.
Yeah. Well, I've even had like apple pie with cheese before. I've had
Yes.
that,
Hmm.
or
Hmm.
apples and cheese. But but yeah, the mac and cheese ice cream, it
I
was
don't know.
just it really I got it for my just as a novelty, for my
Yes.
Instagram
Wanna,
a
yeah.
couple of years ago, and it really wasn't that exciting. But yeah, I thought that was Sarah Montana, who wrote it with Jim Head. They just nailed it. I mean, this is such a
Yeah.
great script.
Yes, and the dialogue, and I mean Rachel Lee Cook is amazing. I was so excited because I'm so glad that she's been in these movies the last few years because
Yeah.
I typically it elevates a movie for me and I typically will probably like a bad movie more if she's in it.
Yeah, I mean, she's been bringing
Yeah.
the humor too. Like, I mean, Cross Country
Yes.
Christmas, that was funny.
Yes. That was a really funny one. And I
Yeah.
think like her just being so like awkward and uncomfortable in every interaction with Sam was so hilarious to me.
Mhm.
I mean, they
Yeah.
were every time they talked to each other, it was great.
And I mean, I think this is the most charming Sam Page has been in a long time.
Hmm.
I really,
Yeah.
really, really do. I mean, he's kind of the perfect. He doesn't have a lot to his character. He kind of has the perfect answer for everything, and the
Yeah.
perfect. But that's just what he's needed for this role. I mean, it might as well have been Cary Grant, I think, in this.
Mhm.
Just really great, and he's the
Yeah.
lawyer. Like, actually have a nice lawyer. That's unusual.
I know they're usually the bad guys, but yes.
But when she makes the wish, and because they have they start this because they've lost, let me back up. So they've lost the Christmas spirit, the belief in Santa is plummeting, and so these two elves, I forget the there's Debbie and the other guy, I forget his name.
Mhm. Yeah,
But they make they pitch to Santa. They say, we're going to make Operation Wish. We're going to one human, three wishes.
Mhm.
And they can't, it has to feel organic. So they can't reveal the Santa world.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, and so they end up with Rachel Lee Cook at random. ending up on her.
Mhm.
And so they give her 3 chances. And I thought that was so clever and funny how they made it look like a spam pop-up.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well,
She would just
I
be
was,
like, what?
I know, I was, that whole thing was so funny because I was like, if I got this email, I would have deleted it. I would have gone to my junk. I would have done exactly like her, you know, I'm not,
Yeah.
this looks like a spam email. You know, I didn't
Yeah.
enter this contest. Like, yeah.
We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's author Jennifer Snow and her book, A Lot Like Christmas. This Christmas season, in best-selling author Jennifer Snow's steamy rom-com, A Lot Like Christmas, love comes where you least expect it. For Jessica Connolly, there is no better place than her coastal hometown of Blue Moon Bay. She has a wonderful family, supportive best friends, and a successful bakery on Main Street. Unfortunately, every time she designs one of her ex-boyfriend's wedding cakes, she's reminded just how unlucky she is with love, and that she's a good luck charm for men to find their happily ever after with someone else the minute they break up. So she's decided to be done with love. Dr. Mitch Jameson is more comfortable traveling the world with Doctors Without Borders than staying in one place. He just needs to survive the holidays in his small hometown before he can leave again. The beautiful, intriguing bakery owner with an aversion to dating might be just who he needs to occupy his restless heart. From sipping hot chocolates at the local Festival of Lights to early morning dessert deliveries, Jessica and Mitch rediscover the spirit of the holidays. But when the 25 days of Christmas are over, will their romance be over too? Adapted as an Up TV holiday movie, readers can catch a sweeter version by watching Christmas Lucky Charm. And you can purchase A Lot Like Christmas wherever you purchase your holiday reads or by using the affiliate link below. She gets on this blind date before the wishes. She gets on this blind date and she meets Sam Page. And he's just he's like, I'm up for anything. I will defend anybody. I will make any argument. I am the best lawyer in the world.
Yeah.
So I was like in Miracle on 34th Street.
Yes, totally. Yeah.
And she's a photographer, of course, because she's in a Hallmark movie. And she keeps getting all of these emails. And finally, on one of them, she's like, because her mom was supposed to make the Pizzelles cookies, and then she didn't. And so she's like, fine. She puts in Pizzelles, and then her mom is there at the door immediately with the Pizzelle cookies. What would be your cookie wish?
Oh, my cookie wish, that's tough because I like, if it's a Christmas cookie, I'm gonna eat it. So I would probably pick, I love gingerbread cookies. I would probably be mine, my favorite.
I'd probably pick like a piece of toffee. It's not exactly a cookie, but I do love a piece of English toffee. It's one of my favorites. Or like I love those like Mexican wedding cookies.
Me too.
Those are so good.
And those are ones that I don't really make. So if I see, I'm like, oh, I gotta have one of those.
Yeah. If I see them at Trader Joe's or whatever, I totally get them.
Yeah.
And so then she's kind of like, what's going on? And then let's see, sorry, my notes. So then she makes a wish for her ex to come back into the swing of things.
She like wishes that he knew how good he had it, or that knew it lost. Yeah.
And he ends up being fizzling out. She kicks him out because he ate all of her Pizzelles.
Yes, I love that was the fun drop for her. We see him being just like the worst human, and her friends being like, do you not see this? And then when he eats all the cookies, she finally sees him. It's interesting because when that happened, I was like, oh, we're really early into the movie. I kind of thought that the wishes, I didn't realize that she would have to kind of undo it. You know, I thought that as she made her wishes, she would like realize anyway. So I was surprised.
She gets all like caught up in this Christmas banner, and she's like, I can't stand Christmas. Yeah. And then so she wishes that Christmas would disappear. And so then it happens. And I did love the line when he said there's a long history of holidays disappearing. I think one of them was like National Mosquito Day or something like that.
Yes. And I'm like, well, you know what? That's fine with me. I'm glad that one just disappeared.
Yeah. And so then you have a bunch of scenes of her. She thinks, oh, where's my tree? I've been grinched. And she goes around and then she starts to realize that she thinks she thinks it's a big goof.
Yeah.
And then she goes and talks to him and he's like, I will argue that Christmas existed, even though I don't even know what it is because I'm such a good lawyer.
Like, yeah. He's like all in on helping her, which I think is really cute.
Yeah. Yeah. Where would everybody find the time to collectively prank you?
Yeah. Yeah.
But she ends up in jail, which was really
funny.
Yes.
I know, because she's accosting that poor intern at the radio station.
Yeah.
And he's like, what are you talking about?
This woman said we kidnapped Merry Christmas.
Oh, yeah. I know. I loved that. That Merry Christmas wouldn't be a phrase that sounds familiar to people. Yeah.
Yeah. And so she develops a picture and in one of the old pictures and it has Christmas on it. And so she tells
it's Sam's
him, she's
family.
like,
yeah,
your family. Look at this. And so then they start going through the motions of setting up Christmas. And I just thought that was so clever, so creative. I think it would be such a challenge intellectually to figure out how do we celebrate Christmas with none of the tools of Christmas.
Yes, and how do we get people involved? And that was something that I sort of thought about, like, if you had no context for this holiday and someone asked you, would you like to be a part of it? You know, I think it is realistic that people, might jump at the chance for an excuse to celebrate, family and hope, but then you explain the things that you do, like you bring a tree from outside indoors. That's how we celebrate.
Well, I've often thought that if we didn't have Christmas, what a dark and depressing and cold, it would be such, because once it starts if it's still snowy in March, it starts to feel, or even getting into April, starts to feel heavy. And that's with Christmas. If we didn't have that, it would be rough.
Well, as soon as Christmas is over, I'm typically like, all right, I'm ready for summer because there's no point for winter. So it's like if there was nothing to break that up and, it's dark.
Well, that's why I totally liked this mayor. This thing was filmed in Duluth.
That's right.
In Duluth. Yeah. And the mayor of Duluth, she's like, how could we attract more people to Duluth in December? This is so exciting. I want to hear all about it.
Yeah, exactly. Like why else would you come here? It's 40 below and
Yeah. And I don't know how you felt about Debbie, but oh my gosh, she was so funny.
When they were all doing the group crafts and she is like, I'm explaining it to them and they're not doing it right. And she just wants to take over. And I love that. And she's saying, I'm really into crafts. That's her. It's just.
We have to remember there's all volunteers. And she's like, what are you not understanding about this candy cane?
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yeah. That was great.
It was hilarious. Yeah, she was so good. And I loved, I think maybe the guy's name was Lou. I'm not sure. But anyway, the male elf, when Christmas gets deleted and he's like, I hated doing the fairy circuit, but.
Oh, yes. Because he was a tooth fairy. Yeah, a job. It's honest work. And yes.
A job's a job.
Yes. I forgot about that. Yeah, I love that.
That was so funny. So funny. And so she hires the Santa Claus, Nick, to play Santa for their activity. It turns out that the mistletoe is still a thing.
Yes.
That was something the Greeks did. And so there's
that was clever.
That was flirty. That was fun.
Yes.
And so they have the big celebration and she thinks, okay, it's going to come back. And like I said, they had, instead of Christmas carols, they had celebration.
Yeah.
Celebrate,
I love that.
Come on.
So cute.
was so funny.
Yeah.
It doesn't come back, and then Santa says that it's not enough for her to bring Christmas to all these people because it was so festive and it was so fun. But she has to bring it for herself. She has to figure out what Christmas means to her. So that was really lovely and wonderful.
It was.
Yeah. And
yeah, as funny as this movie was, it really was like I had
very
some
sweet.
like tear up moments at the end there, for
It
sure.
really did, between her and her mom and family, and Sam Page. He says, "I like you. It doesn't have to be this way unless you want it." And what would you? He says it doesn't have to be exactly the way that you think, but and then she says, I miss the anticipation. I miss the smell of gingerbread, and so it was cute, like the banter between the two of them.
I thought I loved that moment. Yeah. And he, like, they're all so nervous about Nick talking to her. And he just, it seems sort of like a knowing, like, mentor dad figure that's like, no, just kind of knew exactly how to push her.
Yeah.
And he didn't reveal anything. She never suspected, and it's like he knew exactly what to do at exactly the right time and was never worried. I loved his character.
Yeah, me too. And then she says, I wish I had Christmas back. And the lights go out, and then Nick is gone. Christmas is back.
Yep, everything's decorated how it was, traditional Christmas colors, no pool noodles.
Right. And then she goes, I don't need a break from Christmas. And they kiss, and then he gives her the ornament, and Operation Wish is officially terminated.
Yes, and they're both so glad that it's over. They're like, I love it. We agree. We should terminate the thing. We shouldn't have this job anymore.
Yeah. Well, and then they get the elves get a promotion to the main campus, to the main North Pole.
Yeah,
they got the and then she gets the tennis ball ornament from Santa.
I actually,
so sweet.
I love that. Yeah, that was really sweet.
It was really, really sweet. It's like, I want to make a tennis ball ornament after watching this movie.
Yes. Yeah.
I none of these movies are like perfect, but when I'm looking at through the lens of what I'm looking for in a Hallmark movie, this is top echelon for me. And so this, I would give my full five crowns to. This is probably my favorite of the year.
Yeah,
this and Santa Summit. It's back and
I was
forth.
going to say Santa Summit, and then I love the Holly series. They are just so silly and fun. But yeah, I would definitely say this is like definitely one of my top movies. Because like, what's great about a movie like this too is that because it has the magic element, I feel like you can forgive a lot more because you're already in a world where things aren't real. Yeah. So
it's magic, but it's like it kind of within this world, everything was thought out and made sense. Unlike something like Fabled Holiday, where just like this is a horror movie. It's a horror movie. This they really, it was so clever. They were smart. This movie was very, very clever.
Yeah, it was. And it's really too bad that it's just on the app, because I don't know. I don't know because you can't watch I don't understand that.
Like I figured that it's probably going to be similar to that Sugar Plum one that they did a while back, and they had it at the end of the season on Hallmark Channel, because what a loss if people don't get to see this one.
I know. And you really can't just have the app, because not all the movies are on it. It was nice not to fast forward through the commercials, but I'm like, you can't hide Rachel Lee Cook on the app. You've got to either put all your movies on the app. I
mean, I guess they have the whole thing with Peacock now, but I really wish that they had all the old movie, all the movies once they aired, that they were either, I wish they were all on Peacock permanently, not just for 3 days, or they were all on the movies now, one or the other.
I know it's really hard to watch. I feel like now, like with there's a lot more options, but to get them all, it's almost like you need a couple different platforms,
Yeah, I know. You seriously, yeah, there's so many, it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
But it was just, it was so funny and just
Mm-hmm.
clever, and I just loved it.
We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's the Hallmarkies merch store.
Are you looking for that perfect gift for the postable, hearty, or Hallmarky in your life?
What about getting that t-shirt or hoodie that will help you stand out at your next holiday party?
Now is the time to check out the Hallmarkies merch store.
Full of festive designs by artists like Jessica Miller, Carrie from Hallmark Comics, and more.
You can even have more than just shirts, but totes, cell phone cases, notebooks, mugs, and more.
And it isn't just Hallmark. We have designs for Anna Green Gables, Man from Snowy River, The Nanny, and more.
Every purchase at the merch store goes to help support the podcast and allows us to make the great content you know and love.
There are frequent sales, so go to tpublic.com/stores/Hallmarkies or see the link in the description.
That's tpublic.com/stores/Hallmarkies.
All right, let's talk about To All a Good Night, our second photographer of the night. This is directed by Andy Makita and writer Betsy Morris, and it stars Kimberly Sested and Mark Ganimi, I think. Is that how you say his name?
Yeah.
And it's a small town photographer saves the life of a mysterious man who may just be in town to buy her family's parkland, which is also the location of the annual Christmas celebration. First thing about this movie is it gets the worst poster of the season award. I mean, it looked like a horror movie, this poster. It really did. I mean, they didn't even look like they liked each other. He's like giving her this like look, and she's like staring, contemplating to the, it was
dark
terrible.
and serious. Yeah.
Why? I don't understand. But other than that, I thought this was fine. This was, a lot of the movies this year have been kind of bland for me, and I would say that this was pretty bland, but it wasn't like bad. It was cute.
Yeah. So the way that the preview, like with him going into the woods, I almost thought that this was going to have some sort of like magic or like in a different time or something. So the fact that it was just regular accident, I was like, oh, okay, that buildup was sort of strange. But I mean, I really love Kimberly Sested.
Yeah,
so
I do too. She's good at playing sincere. When she cries in a movie, you feel it. You're invested.
Yep.
And so she made this work. I also love Leanne Lapp, who had a small role in this.
Yeah.
And if you want to see a great movie, great rom-com from this year, you should look up something called Mixed Baggage. That was on it was on Up TV, and you can watch it. You have to go on to Up Faith and Family on like on Amazon. You just download the app for like for a free trial and watch it. But anyway, it's one of the best rom-coms of the last decade. I loved it. Absolutely loved it. Anyway, she's in that, and she's great in that, and she plays like his sister, I think, in this. And she's the one with the red hair.
Yes. Oh yeah.
I love her. And basically this movie, you have them meeting, and she saves his life. He has this motorcycle accident, and at the end of when she's saving his life, he asks to marry her.
Yeah.
And she's like, what? And so it's sort of, and then they start spending more time together, and you find out that there's like a big reveal. I mean, this was on Movies and Mysteries, so this is a drama. And you find out about, because she's grieving for the loss of her father, and she feels kind of alone, and her father gave her this elephant necklace. And so overall, I thought it was fine. I mean, what did you think of it?
I liked it. So I felt like there was some funny moments. I think if you had any other actress in this movie, it would have been much more forgettable.
I agree.
But really is just, she's the same. She elevates whatever she's in. So I loved her. She had a lot of funny comments. And then the dog stealing everybody's stuff was such a cute little running thing. And I really liked the lead man. So he uses his first Hallmark, right? So
I I think it's his
It's
first,
been a
maybe his first lead. I think he's been
okay.
in these.
Okay. I
Let's
didn't
see
recognize.
here. Um, yeah, I mean, I'm not sure which ones. He's been in a bunch of Lifetime. Yeah,
Okay.
but I
All
do
right.
think actually it is his first Hallmark. He's on
So,
Virgin River.
okay.
Yeah.
As I once said that my sister's all in on Virgin River. I haven't gotten into it. Um,
I was with it for the first two seasons, and then the third season completely lost me, and I haven't gone back. So
well, my sister was like, there's this one character, and we're on season like 6, and she's still pregnant. I don't know how much time has
oh my
passed.
gosh.
I was like, but
Yeah, okay.
yeah,
I'm glad I haven't gone back then. But I know a lot of
but
people love that show. But
yeah,
yeah, he's
people,
on that show.
yeah,
A lot of Hall stars are on
yeah.
that show. But
But yeah, so I thought it was an enjoyable one to watch. It wasn't as like, some of those movies and mysteries movies are so heavy and I'm like, I just don't feel like crying, so I'm not going to watch this movie.
mhm.
So yeah, I thought it was
Yeah,
just yeah, like perfectly
sweet.
fun
Yeah.
to watch. Yeah. Mhm.
One thing I wondered is why did they say you don't ever take off the helmet? Why would they say that? I know you're not
That
supposed to move somebody. I've
yeah.
heard that before, obviously, but why wouldn't you take off the helmet?
My only thought was if maybe he had a neck injury and so you would like jostle it. Um,
Maybe.
but
Because I would think you'd want to see if there was any kind of like
or just
obstruction
like
or
but this because the helmet all seemed intact. I mean, obviously they're not going to show a very like catastrophic motorcycle accident.
Mhm.
You're not going to see blood or misshapen
Yeah.
limb. But even like pulling the visor up, I would think you could do to like give him some air. So
Yeah. So she has this elephant necklace. He sees it.
mhm.
And that's when he sees it, he says, "Marry me," and
Mhm.
she agrees.
Yes.
And then she's like, "What am I going to do about this? This is awkward." And so she goes and brings him food, and and leaves the and balloons, elephant balloons,
Yes.
and for him, but she doesn't stay in the hospital. And and this one I wrote in my notes, Leanne, that lap is in this! Exclamation point. I was excited
Yes.
about that.
Yes.
Uh, but then there's this like decorating event, Christmas Eve, and she's considering, I guess this was a big tradition that her dad did, but she's considering not having the event. And there's this woman, I think her name was Vivian, that her dad
Yes.
had her basically her stepmom.
Mhm.
And so she tries to talk to her to having the event, but she's just really struggling. And so there's kind of that dynamic going on. He asks her to dinner. They have a little date. There's the Christmas PJs event, which was fun. And then he's in
Yes.
the reindeer outfit.
Yes. He just like goes all out with it.
Yeah, yeah. Um, and she says, I don't know if I can do the event without him.
Yeah.
And that's the thing in these movies, they always have these things on Christmas Eve, which I feel like there's almost no events on Christmas Eve.
Well,
Like
that's
hardly
what we
anybody
always
does anything.
like. It's so funny you say that because we're always like, they always wait until Christmas Eve to do the Christmas light tree lighting in town.
Yeah.
Ever. And I'm like, our town did it the Saturday after Thanksgiving, or,
Yeah.
that's
Oh
when we
yeah.
are.
Because you want to have it up for the whole
Yeah.
town to enjoy.
And, or
Yeah.
like like school Christmas pageants on Christmas Eve. And you're like,
Yeah.
nothing is happening at school on Christmas Eve. But
Right. Sometimes it'll be 12 days before. They'll have
yeah.
like traditions like that. But
Yeah.
but anyway, he lost 3 of his friends in the army. And he says all the firsts are the hardest.
Hmm.
So
That was a sweet moment.
yeah, it
One
was.
thing I like, because one of the things that I hate in Hallmark movies, and it happens so often, is the one person has a secret and they have all these chances to tell the other person, and then the other person finds out and then is really mad, and you're like,
Yeah.
this. And so one thing I liked about this was that well, there was 2 of those kind of storylines, but the first one about her identity um was just sort of like, the little girl spills the beans. The whole town is helping her keep the secret. They don't know why. They're just all in on it, which I thought was cute. And then the little girl is like, "Why aren't you wearing your elephant necklace?" And then he's like, "Oh, I knew it was you the whole time, and I was just playing too." And I
Well,
was like,
and she's like, "How could you lie to me?" And I'm like, "Why would I feel like almost nobody would say that? They would be like, "Oh my gosh, you knew my dad. That's so cool." Like
I know.
there wouldn't be this like betrayal.
That's so the first one I thought was a genuine, like, that's exactly how someone would respond. Like, "Oh, haha, you kept it. Like, you knew, I knew, like, that was funny." But yeah, then when it was her turn to be like, "You knew who my dad was." I agree with you. I think you would have been like, "Oh my gosh, that's crazy that you knew my dad."
Yeah.
And who cares at what point you told me or didn't tell me,
Yeah.
But
it's like I was saying with the Holiday Hotline movie, that was cute. I enjoyed it. But
yeah,
like in I think in real life, if you found out that that there was a Peggy and a whatever, her Abby,
yeah,
I think Peggy and Abby, you'd be like, "Oh my gosh, that's so fun." You're like
yes,
in the movie Bells Are Ringing, which is super fun little movie. It's very similar to Holiday
oh, is it?
Hotline. Yes, yeah, and it's about an answering service girl because it
Oh,
was
cute.
1960,
Oh, okay,
and yeah, and Dean Martin
okay, I can
and
watch it.
is the guy, and when he finds out that this, because he thought he thought the lady on the answering service was an old lady, and
Oh,
he'd been going out with this woman. And so he was like, "Bella, Mella, I don't care what your name is. I love you." And it
yeah,
was like, yeah, that's
that's
right.
cute.
That's what you would
Well,
say.
and it's like, and You've Got Mail, too, where she's like, they meet and she's like, "Oh, I
Yes.
hoped it was you."
Yeah,
It's
I
like,
wanted it to
I,
be you so
yeah,
badly. Yeah.
I feel like you could have, that drove me crazy in that movie too. I was like, I feel like you could have
You wouldn't be
had a
like,
different
"You
conflict
betrayed
or,
me. You
right.
lied."
Yeah. And you're like, why should she, I don't know.
Yeah.
I like that movie a lot too, but that piece of it, I was like, man,
Mhm.
if you could just like made a couple adjustments, that could have been like,
Yeah.
it been one of my
Agreed.
favorites. Yeah.
hmm and yeah, so I was like, "It's stupid. She's upset with him. Why is she so mad? Like, she's being stupid."
Yeah. Yep.
Uh, but then
But
she
it was
goes
very
and
short lived.
yes, see that, so you're less mad because
Hmm.
so she makes up with Vivian
Yeah.
and they decorate the tree together, and that was very
I
sweet.
thought her conversation with Vivian was very lovely because
Yeah.
Vivian comes off as this like cold, stern woman, and then you realize that they haven't actually been together. Her and her dad, Vivian and her dad haven't been together very long. And I was thinking that they had this whole, dynamic of her being cold, but it's like, oh, she's kind of new to the family.
Yeah.
Um, and that she was someone who was impacted by her dad. Um, and that's how they, formed a relationship. I was
Yeah.
like, oh, you know, you I don't know. I liked how
Yeah.
they built her up
It
at
was
the end.
good. And then
Yeah.
so then they have the tree decorating thing.
Mhm.
They have it, and so they're out. It's an outdoor tree decorating, and then she says that ever since I met you, I'm looking forward. I'm moving
Oh,
forward.
yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
that was good. And then it was a very swoon-worthy line when she says, "If you were thinking about kissing me now, would be a really good
Yeah.
time." That was
Yeah, that's
great.
cute. And she's crying, and yeah. I actually really liked their little tradition too, where they all decorate an outdoor tree out at this
Yeah.
place. I thought that was a really cute idea for an event. But yeah, on Christmas Eve, I mean, you know,
Mhm. Yeah.
as you do in a Hallmark movie.
hmm Yeah, and then she there's that a bunch of people in the town had gotten letters from her dad,
Yeah.
and it kind of ends with this Christmas photo and the kiss at the
Yeah.
end, which was
Hmm.
very sweet, very sweet. So yeah,
Yeah.
I would probably give this one like a 3.25.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that sounds about right. It's so hard because, if this movie had been at the beginning, I might have ranked it higher. But when you
hmm
get towards the end,
Yeah, that's true.
there's so many others that I like better that I can compare it to.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, so I think I might be like a 3.5, but I like I said, it's Kimberly Sested clouds my judgment, you know.
Yeah, she's great. We love her.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so let us know if you're listening what you think and what rating you would give the movies. We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments or on Twitter. And thank you so much, Cal. This was a delight
Yeah.
to have you
Yes,
on. It
it
was
was
so
so
much
fun.
fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love talking Hallmark movies. So yeah, it was so
We'll
fun.
definitely have you back on.
Yeah,
And
I'd love to.
if people want to follow you on Instagram, and I don't know if you're on TikTok or what you do.
No, I
Okay.
don't even want to download TikTok. I'm afraid of what I might
Yeah.
do. But yeah, I'm at Hallmarksthespot on Instagram. That's about all I can handle. I don't do Twitter or anything like that. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Great. Well, y'all should definitely follow Callie. It's a lot of fun. I really enjoy your posts. And you can find me at Rachel's Reviews all over social media, iTunes, YouTube, and on Rotten Tomatoes. Check that out. Also, make sure you're following the podcast, the Hallmarkies Pod, Hallmarkies Podcast, all over social media. And if you are listening on iTunes, please leave your ratings and reviews. It really helps us a lot. It helps people to find the podcast. And if you are watching on YouTube, please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Most of our viewers on YouTube aren't subscribers. So if you're in that camp, please subscribe. It really, really helps the algorithm a lot. And check out our Patreon group, which is the best way you can support us. And you get to be part of monthly watch-alongs and Q&As with the stars. We've had people like Paul Campbell and Mary Lou Henner and just some awesome people, including we had Sarah Montana, who wrote Rescuing Christmas, on for a watch along. So we've had great watch alongs and other benefits, weekly exclusive reviews. Please check out the Patreon. It really helps us a lot. And I think you totally get your money's worth with a with a patronage. And also we have our merch store, which has a ton of fun designs. So if you're looking for something for the Christmas fan, the Hallmarky, the Hardy, the Postable in your life, you can't go wrong checking out the merch store. So thanks so much again, Callie. It was great to meet you.
Yeah,
And
you too.
wish you all a very Merry Christmas.